Hi, I'm Marty Levinson, and welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Edward Scissorhands has nothing on me. Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to Northtown News Magazine, and we're here today to snip away at eminent domain.
For the identity of the real Marty Levinson, please stay tuned to the Northtown News Magazine.
Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Back to that lemon light city, sweet Hope, Chicago. 2 is 4.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson, the real Marty Levinson. All these people have been doing me for 7 years, maybe 8 years, but I really am the Marty Levinson that you all want to see. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine show with the greatest cameraman around, Sonny Hirsch, and your host of 22 years on television, Avi Myers.
Thank you, Marty. Avi Myers, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine. And we're filming on Earth Day, and in that vein, because this is largely a political show, we'd like to wish all those dirtbag politicians out there a very happy Earth Day. And may you become one with them soon. Well, shut up, Avi. I will. In any event, check us out on the web at ntnm.org. Everything's on YouTube. Over about 1,000 shows right now are available on YouTube for you to watch. Hundreds of thousands of shows have been watched. We're very big on community policing, caps24.org. Welcome to our new commander in the 24th District, Roberto Nieves. We haven't met yet, but we look forward to. We want to wish Commander Tom Waldera all the luck in the world, and he's in charge of narcotics. And we still invite you to come visit the show and bring narcotics when you come. It's now time to introduce you to one of my favorite subjects. You know what? I wish the subject would go away so it wouldn't be a problem. And by go away, I mean the government action would be enacted. And that is, as you know, those of you who have been following the shows, I've been really big, and the neighbors have been great and cooperative, especially Kim Moseid and Gina Fong, about, among others, and we'll introduce you in a sec, about the northeastern eminent domain land grab, land that they don't need, land going to private developers, land that should stay in the private hands. Some of the people there have been in business over 60 years and lived there for decades, and they don't need the land at all. Anyway, I want to introduce you to my panel, Bruce Van Inwegen. Okay, thank
Indeed,
God.
neighborhood resident. Don't want to torch you with it anywhere there. That's
okay,
fine.
And you're one of the neighbors.
I am.
Okay, and another neighbor, Kim Moseid. Thank you very much for being here.
Nice to see you again, Avi.
And I want to publicly thank her for getting me the Frugal Gourmet's salsa recipe, which is really great with heirloom tomatoes. And from the Illinois Policy Institute, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, Bryant Jackson-Green. And hi there.
Great to meet you.
Hi there.
Good to see you again, Avi.
Okay, and hi.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, my pleasure. So what's the latest?
Well, there's been a lot of latest because I think the last time we saw each other was in November when Bruce and I, or maybe it was just me that was here. So we've had a couple demonstrations, candlelight visual. Nearly 100 people came out to support the property owners in, I think it was 2 degrees outside or something.
Wow.
Bryant was there. Illinois Policy's been heavily involved supporting the property owners. They recently released a fabulous documentary that features Garrick Bile, property owner, Bill Tong, property owner, faculty at NEIU, and also the president, who has started this whole mess, Sharon Haas. Very exciting. House Bill 2558. We've been down to Springfield, testified in front of the Judiciary Committee. The bill is now back in the Rules Committee, so we're working on that to amend some of the wording in the bill so that we can move it through the House and hopefully through the Senate and get a new law passed to stop public universities from exercising eminent domain when they really don't need the property to expand.
Yeah, and unfortunately, now are they able to do something like they don't need the property to expand, but also the whole, well, the Supreme Court unfortunately has ruled in favor of stuff going to private, which tells me that they got a problem too along those lines. So right now, how does the alderman stand? The alderman originally was all for Northeastern. How's the stand now after the election?
You know, it's interesting that you ask that because a number of neighbors have attempted to contact Alderman Lorino about this. And generally speaking, when you talk with somebody in the office on the phone, you can't talk with her directly. But her staff has made it clear that she is going to remain on the fence publicly about this. She believes that what's happening is legally out of her hands. However, she has privately acknowledged, or actually I guess I'd say publicly, in a letter that she did send out to some residents of her constituency, that she is personally against this particular application of eminent domain. However, she hasn't really stated that openly in public. So
No,
she's kind of trying to dodge the question.
And that letter went out before the election, so
Yes.
go figure.
Yeah, I hear that loud and clear. The fact is that through her powers of zoning, which are in the alderman's hands, she could do quite a bit to stop them from really doing anything on Bryn Mawr or on Foster. I mean, basically what they want to do is they want to take over the land between Bernard and Central Park.
It is between Kimball and Bernard on Bryn Mawr.
And followed by a similar land grab on Foster Avenue.
There is no land grab on Foster. That is their athletic field, and that's another thing that has changed since. It's actually an interesting change. The first student housing project was going to be built on Bryn Mawr. This is what they condemned the properties are exercising eminent domain. The second housing project was then going to be built on their own land, which is on Foster. They have always argued with us that they don't have the space for the student housing projects on their own campus. And lo and behold, they recently announced in March now that they will not be building on Bryn Mawr first. They're actually building the first project on their own campus, not even on Foster. It is within their campus. So it's in a totally different location that they had originally planned. So that kind of tells me that they probably have a couple locations where they could put the student housing
there. I mean, anybody who drives through there can see clearly that there's tons of open space there.
And incidentally, what has happened in the interim, when they have shifted this, location from Bryn Mawr because they couldn't get the eminent domain done in time, they moved that section to their own property. But now what they've done is the original strip of land along their athletic field on Foster that they had originally intended to be dorms, they're now removed that from the table, and they want to put that on Bryn Mawr.
Interesting.
Now, Bryn Mawr has 67 acres of land, so as you said, there's plenty of space there for him to do that. And one thing about the bill that Kim mentioned earlier, HB 2558, is it would require a university to show that, in front of a judge, that there's nowhere else they could possibly build any development before they can use their eminent domain powers.
That would be great. That would be absolutely great. I mean, you're talking about, and you know what, one thing that's being ignored by a lot of people, the number of students going to Northeastern is shrinking. It's not expanding. It's not like they really need more space for students. They aren't coming. This thing was built as a commuter college. It never had dormitories. And not to mention the fact that if you take a look at the list of top 500 colleges, there isn't even a hint of Northeastern University being anywhere near it. So it's not like it's a destination location for people around the nation, to get a higher education, unless they're smoking something funny over there.
Well, interestingly enough that you say that, I was just reading an article before we came in here, and I cannot remember the gentleman's name at university. Rauner is cutting the public university's budgets across the state, and there's a big to-do about that. What this gentleman said at Northeastern is, well, if he cuts the budgets, we're going to have to cut classes, we're going to have bigger classes, and we're going to have to cut faculty. Well, how about cutting the bureaucratic staff, the bureaucracy? How about minimizing the bureaucracy? How about not expanding your infrastructure with buildings and such, things that might not be necessary for the university to succeed? Focus on your core competencies instead. But,
yeah, I mean, they haven't even filled up what they've got going. I mean, they used to have a lot more students than they have now.
I mean, at the same time, they're cutting back on classes. they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on attorneys to focus on this land grab, essentially. So they're prosecuting, 6 people in court to steal their property, but that same money could easily go to student needs, to keep some courses open, to pay faculty, for things that actually focus on the core mission of the university. And they sort of put that aside to take a huge gamble on these dorms.
That would be a very good idea. As a matter of fact, you reminded me just now that I do know somebody high up in Ronner's office, so maybe I'll write them afterwards too.
That would be great.
Because this is a very righteous cause, people. Take my word for that. And, first of all, let's let people know where the website is.
The website is neiulandgrab.com. And I'd also like to refer them to, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, nocronies.com. Is that correct?
Yes,
Ryan?
that's correct.
That will take you to the documentary that was recently released, and it really is an excellent documentary. It does show both points of view, although I can't say it's very complimentary to the president of the university, since
You mean it was accurate?
Well, I guess so, yeah. One of the statements that she said that I was flabbergasted by was that she does not believe that private property owners do not have the right to sell. So we have to sell to the university. That's pretty much exactly what she said.
Yeah, we interviewed both sides, and you just plainly laid out her view that, if you live by the university, you really don't have any kind of secure property rights at all. It's really just sort of up to the Board of Trustees, which of course was not elected by anyone in the community. They're each appointed by the governor. And once they decide that they want to engage in eminent domain proceedings, you don't really have a choice. Now, when they first went to the property owners, they said that we're going to offer you some sort of compensation for it, but they're sort of negotiating with a gun to their head, because they can always say, well, if you decide not to sell the price that we set, we'll just start eminent domain proceedings. And a university, of course, has a lot more money than individual small business owners. So they can keep this lawsuit going for as long as they want and just drain them of money until they settle.
Yeah, it's a shame. Go ahead.
The fundamental thing about eminent domain, and this came from the Kalo versus City of New London, the Supreme Court decision that allowed the idea of public purpose rather than public use to be introduced into this situation. So what is happening here is that President Haas is trying to make this look as if there is a public purpose in play here, when in fact it's really only private greed that's being dressed up to look like it.
In Illinois, private greed? You mean people in Illinois who contribute to government causes or universities or whatever?
How can a small percentage of university students be considered, who will occupy the space, be considered as a public use or a public purpose?
And this is so much bigger than just Northeastern University, too. This is why this bill is really important. It's not just for Northeastern, it's for all public universities in Illinois. It would stop them from exercising eminent domain if they have sufficient land to expand on. I think I mentioned to you before, it's happening in northern Illinois as well. They could potentially condemn close to 500 residences there.
Wow.
So it's rampant in Illinois. It has to stop somewhere.
Well, and the fundamental idea, too, that they keep projecting is that this is a lawful act. They want to believe that this is a lawful act, as if something that's legal is also moral and just. There was a time in our history when it was legal for white people to own black people, and black people had no choice to say, no, you can't own me.
Doesn't make it right.
It doesn't make it right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and one of the things, and I do cover the judiciary, one of the things, they have to stick to the law. And if you take a look at who our state senators and state representatives are sometimes, they're not always acting in the best interest of the people. And I think that's an understatement.
And the funny thing is, the university is claiming that the 3400 block of Bryn Mawr is somehow underdeveloped. But there's actually, all the storefronts there have businesses operating, successful businesses. For instance, Bryn Mawr Breakfast Club will have a line going around the corner on any given weekend, people just lining up to patronize it. So that they would take not only private property, but such really a thriving block that students use, faculty members use, staff, and the community actually is invested in is just amazing.
Yeah, and I know I think Bill Tong, who was on, his business has been there for his family business for 60 years
exactly.
plus. So
the Biles, similar?
The president's on the record in the documentary as saying that if you look at that stretch of Bryn Mawr from Bernard to all the way to Kedzie, and she considers it as being, quote, pretty depressed. When I walk the block and I look at it, I see it as being pretty culturally diverse. And,
I think it's nice.
And
frankly.
you know what? Culturally diverse, not every culture has the exact same aesthetic as that of old, rich white people, you know?
Well,
and
her aesthetic would
I'm
be Starbucks
fine with their
in,
aesthetic as long as they pay their taxes. If they pay their taxes, I'm fine with it.
The funny thing is the only section of Bryn Mawr that is thriving is the section that the university has condemned.
Wow. That's, excuse me, allergies, people, sorry. Government inaction.
Yeah, yes.
So it's a real shame. It really is. I want to urge everybody to check the documentary out, that's for sure. And they can find that at
NoCronies.com.
NoCronies.com.
It's also on YouTube.
And on YouTube.
It's called Eminent Domain, The Taking of Bryn Mawr, I think it's called.
Yes, and it's also listed on the Illinois Policy Institute's YouTube page.
Okay. And check that out, the Illinois Policy Institute, that we're very familiar with. At this point, I want to thank, and the website for the group?
NEIUlandgrab.com. That is also being updated pretty much as we speak. We're going through it a little at a time because there's a lot more information out there that needs to be added. So
Cool, and if you're watching this on TV, go to ntnm.org and you can watch it on YouTube. And once you see it on TV, it will already have been on YouTube. So before my sinuses completely explode on me, I'd like to very much, excuse me, thank my guests, Bryant Jackson-Green of the Illinois Policy Institute. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kim, always a pleasure to see you.
always a pleasure, yes.
And Bruce Van Inwegen.
Thank you, Avi.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank my entire technical crew, Sonny Hirsch, and thank you so much for joining us, everybody. And stick around. We've got Rabbi Binyamin Shimon coming up next. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, Avi.